Hi, Davai 3, 2, 1. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you are. And for some ungodly reason, someone still has the boredom to watch these things. V has been very nice to allow me on his sofa once again. It's a very comfortable
Thank
sofa.
you. Carapeua 2.0.
Yes, the only problem is that at 38 degrees Celsius, it can be a little bit annoying. But
Feels
then,
like a car, yeah.
Yeah, it feels a little, but I suppose we'll survive.
How's yours like when it's hot? 'Cause like yours a more classical, vintage model.
Yeah, it absorbs the sweat better. I'm serious. But also, I have the fortune that the room where the sofa is situated,
Oh, it's a more...
it's surrounded by big trees, so it's never that hot. And also, I have a thicker curtain because when the sun is actually shining, it borks the colors of the filming. So I had to choose a very long and thick curtain, which also has the, this is the first summer I'm actually testing it, has the advantage of keeping the sun out and the heat out. So, yeah. But on the other hand, yours is more comfortable because it's larger.
Yeah.
So it allows me to stay in these weird positions in a way that the other one doesn't. Right. I'm not going to ask all of these questions, but...
Jesus, where'd you get all of them?
Well, I gave you the link. I told you to evaluate them and you didn't
It
reply.
has user and password, and when I click to log in, it doesn't remember the user and password.
That's the point. You have to keep them written down.
Goodness.
Well, it's for everyone's privacy. I don't have to view your password. You don't have to. You don't get to store it unsafely anywhere. So you can't be hacked. I can't be hacked. And most importantly, the EU can't fine me for GDPR violations because you can't.
Yeah, you're not GDPR.
No.
You are GDPR compliant by not having to store the data. Yeah.
No, by not storing it.
Yeah.
By not having it to begin with. Data can't be leaked if that data doesn't exist.
So you can't be fine.
Yeah, effectively. Because, I have many friends in politics, so...
They're probably waiting for a reason, yeah?
Yes, as it's been happening with other activists, including one from your town. So how are you enjoying the Men's Mental Health Month? Is it something useful or even desirable to have? The reason I'm starting with this one is because as I was... finishing up my coffee this morning and getting back to the hotel to grab the equipment to come here, I saw a huge display that said Romanian Mental Health Film Festival. The first edition will be held in this city next year in May, not in June. So I'm like, the mental health is becoming a thing even here in a way that probably never was. Let's face it, mental health was always regarded as a bad thing.
Yeah, and stigma.
Stigmatized, for sure.
Why are you going to the psychologist? Are you insane? Are you...
Well, to be fair, that is a fair question. Because
yeah,
psychology is not really
I'll talk about that in a bit. So I may say something that you would disagree with, but I find the whole concept of like awareness very cringe, in the sense that it's not coming from my family or from my friends, it's coming from a corporation. Right, so I'm online and it's like, oh, this company is raising awareness about men's mental health, and it's like, really, do you really care, or are you just saying it because you have to say it? So that's one thing.
Well, they have to say it because they can no longer shill for the LGBT. The rainbow thingy. So
Xbox, I think, did that. Like they had a Twitter account. They usually would have rainbow colors and shill for LGBT issues. And this month they were like, oh, men's mental health awareness.
But isn't that progress, though? I mean, I would rather them talk about men's mental health than...
I get it. It's just like, finally, I feel being commoditized, I'm being treated as a commodity by corporations. So that's cringe. But like regarding psychologists, I always say this on my channel, and I'm not a religious person, I'm an atheist. You're more better off if you actually go to a priest, not necessarily an Orthodox, like any type of religion, any denomination. Because the priest already has like a history in listening to people and solving family issues, dealing with drama that happens in his community. And the psychologist's interest is to get money from you. Like they will always say, this is not healing, this is a process. So like they want you to keep going in order to keep getting money. Meanwhile, the priest wants to fix your problem, so you fuck off.
Yeah, well, the priest may get money from you as well, but that's...
For donations, usually,
yes,
right?
Yes, it's not really the main thing.
He gets super chats, yeah.
Essentially, yes. Isn't it amazing that YouTubers invented super chats, which the church has been having those for like
Yeah, I
1800
was sitting.
years?
Yeah, I was sitting with my wife at a sermon, and I was seeing people, putting money in Kutia Mile, and I was like, "That's a super chat." I was like, "Literally, that's a super chat." So yeah, but seriously though, like if you go to a priest and you eliminate all of the
A
the
ritualistic part.
theological and ritualistic thing. What it is about mostly is they have a lot of wisdom from the Greeks, like a lot of Stoicism, a lot of that philosophy, and it's also like the difference. Like, have you ever gone to a priest
Of
to?
course.
Yeah, and they put you.
I have priests in my family. I have friends who are priests. Yeah.
Like they took me in a back room, and the walls were in on me. Like all of a sudden,
Very
the entire
literally.
room, right? I was there, and the priest was looming. It's like, what did you do? And that's like a different way of treating men's mental health than going to a psychologist and laying you down on a sofa and putting some music, and it's like, oh, so tell me about this, right? It doesn't have like the same emotional impact.
It's spiritually feminine.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely, right? But like with me, like in the little room, and like the saints were looking at from the ceiling, they were looking at you, like, what did you do? Tell me. And I'm like, what? It's like, and like you immediately feel the need to.
Suddenly you try to make it matter, right? Yeah, it shortens the process by quite a bit. That's true. Now, in a way, I take your point with commodization, whatever. Sure, I'm trusting a corporation to give a shit about anyone's mental health, really.
Well, but my point is that it's not really helping. It's just like pretending to do something without any actual results.
Yeah, sure. In terms of actually improving anyone's mental health, probably doesn't help at all. But is awareness entirely useless?
I don't know. I mean, I don't like the whole virtue signaling aspect that's coming from the West. I don't think we had it. I think like our way of virtue signaling was like through friends and family, through communities, like grounds up, not top down.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not being against it. It's just that I personally find it cringe. Like it
I-
can
I-
exist,
I
but
agree it's cringe. I'm just trying to
Yeah.
figure out whether there is any utility in it. Other than, I suppose, a negative utility. I'd rather them talk about men's mental health than LGBT, because
Oh.
that means the LGBTists lose, and that's a good thing. The
I know
neighbor's
the-
goat has died.
Yeah. I know the utility. It's the same reason why I brought up, our president talking about the feminist side. As it's the cultural aspect, right? So like if you have a culture that considers certain things important, it's a lot easier to get people fired. It's a lot easier to do all these call outs. It's a lot easier to have someone that completely diminishes, right? Like you have someone in public that goes, oh, this man has a mental health. Who fucking cares? Boo-hoo, cry me a river. But if like the entire society is saying, well, this is something serious, it affects all of us, then all of a sudden that person that does that call
Sucks.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, the thing is that there are some other less visible effects. A few weeks ago, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I hope I'm not wrong, whatever, this month, in June, I went to the Gay Pride Parade in Cluj. And we usually go to the one in Cluj and the one in Budapest every year to document the
number of attendance?
No, well, that too, but the current psychological state of the organizers.
Oh,
And
I like it.
and the current financial state of the organizers. Because again, we're interested in the logistics and what can we do to work it even more. We treat it like a war because it is a war. It's ultimately logistics.
Yeah, an ideological war, yeah.
Yeah, it's no, but it's also logistics, like physical logistics. How much money do you have? How much resources can you move? And can we beat you on that? And if not, can we sabotage your resources? And this year it was shocking. In Bucharest, there was one corporation that backed their British word for cigarette march. And in Cluj also, again, one corporation, a different one than in Bucharest.
So you're saying like people
Compare-
don't just appear. They don't just gather, like random people. It's like
No,
it's
it's all organized. It's a PSD style organization. They bring them by the vans. And also, very importantly, the central square in Cluj-Napoca, they were incapable of filling it in, even though half of it was already occupied with a film festival.
That's so interesting because it's different than London.
Yeah, it was a very few people, like less than a third than 3 years ago.
Are they even gay?
Some are, but I don't know. Maybe some aren't. But quite a few of them, I've known them for quite some time. I know they are gay, and much fewer trans than in the past. They had a trans flag, but no more messaging about kids. In my hometown in Cluj, 7 years ago, they had it on the stage. I love my trans child. And we made a big ruckus about that. Every politician that held that message is no longer in politics.
Really?
Yes. At the time, there was one MP who was on the stage and one ambassador. They're all out of politics by now, mostly because of that picture. We made sure that we had impeccable pictures of that. And now there was no messaging about trans children, like they didn't exist because they don't exist. And only one corporation instead of at least 40 3 years ago. So this is not just that they refused to change their colors. They pulled back funding. And like, okay, maybe it's an isolated incident. I went on Pink News.
And it's the same. Yeah?
Suddenly in the US, same thing. Very little corporate sponsorship, much lower attendance, no more. Some of the extremism was cut down, less so in the US, all of it here.
You know what this reminds me of?
There was no gay pride march in this city this year, right?
Yeah.
Because they couldn't afford it.
I don't follow it, so I guess.
Yeah, in the previous years they had it because they could afford it. They could fly people in, and now they couldn't afford it.
I think it's similar to the fall of the, I guess, the evangelical movement in the United States. Like it was really, really strong during the Bush era, and then just completely drops.
Yeah, but that one was at least in part grassroots, because they were genuine evangelicals who genuinely believed in the cause, and quite a lot of them. And again, they were also boycotted by the corporations. They didn't have mainstream support until Bush got into power, and even then, they didn't get much public public finances support. That's what I'm saying. No, they did have some public support. I mean, they appointed their own president, so they definitely had some public support.
No, I mean not like the LGBT has now.
Yeah. Whereas with LGBT, it just feels very much astroturfed. It always felt astroturfed.
Yeah, but I think it came from the United States and then the European Union, right? So like they had their believers there, like their actual believers, and then they spread their ideological belief with.
Yes, but the recent manifestation, by recent I mean the last 10 years, was mostly astroturfed. And now we see that this is the case. In the past, when I would claim that it's astroturfed, I was
So
like,
you're claiming that in the future it may completely go away?
In our country, probably yes. Probably yes. Or
at least like genuine people that are genuinely gay, just having their own parade over there.
You'll have to dig deeper to find images from the first gay pride parade, which was I think in 1999 or 2000, which was like 100 people, all of them dressed very normally. And like one or two messages were like, "Can we please stop having criminal prosecution for?"
But they did have a point.
They did have
like
a
that,
point.
that,
Sure.
Yeah, like I think we criminalized being gay under communism, like most communist nations did,
except DDR, which made
except Eastern Germany,
which made it almost mandatory. Anyway,
and then we were forced by the European Union because we wanted to adhere, like after the year
join,
yeah, like we were forced to remove that. And they put the gay crime under rape. So, like, if you looked at rape, it was the unconsensual intercourse with another person or sex with the same gender.
Yes, although the High Court interpreted that as in if it is the same gender, it's an aggravated circumstance, but it still requires lack of consent.
Oh, so it was applied like in the spirit of, in the well, actually, in this case, neither the letter nor the spirit, but the European Union's way,
Yeah, no, the High Court clarified it precisely because some prosecutor tried to apply it very textually, and that ended with very weird situations in court, and the judges were like, yeah, we kind of need guidance. How the hell do we judge this? Because it was poorly written. Let's put it this way.
Plenty of laws are,
Yeah. But the thing is that with men's mental health, again, next year, and appears in this city, in your city, it is a very private initiative, not corporate. It's like two random people. It's the initiative of it's a man and a woman. Probably they're a couple, whatever, although they don't have the same last name, so maybe they're not. It seems that for the first time since ever, we get to talk at a mainstream level
about men.
About men, yes, and. Maybe that's not
I guess like 2 more years and then you'll have the grifters and then you'll agree that it's a bad thing.
You're that optimistic. 2 years? 2 whole years without grifters? That sounds amazing.
Well, that's what usually happens with these public movements, right? Which is
Of
why I'm
course.
against the call-out culture and stuff.
Of course, I'm not saying grifters won't appear. I'm just challenging you. 2 whole years without grifters? That's very optimistic from you.
So you think one?
2 months.
Don't tell me you're already grifting.
I seriously do expect for some of these red pill grifters to turn into men's mental health advocates or something like that. If a grant appears from a corporation or whatever, and I fully do expect.
I mean, if such a grant appears, please let me know. I'm willing
You're
to
open
provide
to
my expertise. Yeah.
You're open to
All of a sudden, I'll change my mind, and it's actually a very good initiative.
But corporate cringiness aside, do you agree that it's a serious issue?
Yeah, absolutely. I do think that.
Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? Staying the same?
I think like when it comes to men, they're built on solving the issues themselves rather than relying on other people.
Right.
And so, like for instance, dating, right? Like technology advanced so far that dating today is not like how our parents used to do it.
I don't know. I did it like my parents.
For you, but like for the new generation, I don't think so. Like a lot of people use dating apps now. They're connected with social media. They use that, right? And there's no right or wrong. Like there's no one to tell you how to be like a man, right? There's no guidance. This is why someone like Andrew Tate is.
Oh yeah, I mean.
Right, because like he's literally the only thing that's left. Like he's the bottom of the battle. There's nothing there.
Yeah, because everything else was called racist, sexist, Islamophobic,
like
misogynistic, and whatever. Yeah.
Like society literally waged a war on flirting.
Yeah.
So you have an entire generation of men that generally don't know what to do, and they're listening to what society tells them, like be respectful. Be
everything is contradictory or wrong.
Yeah, and you follow all of that, and you notice that you're lonely, and it's not about sex; it's about companionship. Like,
it is about sex as well.
Yeah, but like even because a lot of people, women feminists, they try to reduce it at the sexual aspect.
Yeah, no, of course it's not just sex.
It's not just sex. Like what men need is companionship. There was this OnlyFans girl that said that she's going to fix incels by sleeping with 1,000 guys that are incels.
Yeah, and fun fact, no.
And I was like, no, like you're actually making it worse for them, right? Because like they don't just need the sex, like they need the human companionship. And so you have like a lot of young men, they walk into the park, they see couples, they see people holding hands. They're like, well, why can't I be like that? And the first thing they go is like, well, what if I'm different? What if I'm broken? What if I'm a loser, right? Because that's what society tells you. And so maybe, like if mental health actually becomes a thing, and I'm struggling to think of, good qualities, like maybe these insults that if you're single, there's something wrong with you, or that you're broken or not fit for society. Maybe this type of thing can go into the lexicon.
Yeah, the thing is that there is something wrong with you if you're single.
Depends the age though, right?
Yes, but there are nuances to it. And just because something is wrong doesn't necessarily mean you're a loser. Some are, but quite a few maybe they're not.
Yeah, but like if you're single at 20,
yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily unrecoverable.
Oh, it's definitely not unrecoverable.
Or that
but I will say it's weird because not because you should not be single, but especially if you're a virgin at 25, I'm like, yeah, that's weird. And if you attain wizard status,
it's like 30, right?
Yeah, I think it's 30 now, although it will probably be lowered again because back in my days on the internet, 35-year-olds were wizards. Now it's 30, and it'll probably be lowered again. Because that's another thing. The standards have changed, and mostly for the worse. On everything. They changed on women as well. Because that's something that I probably didn't get the chance to say on your channel, so maybe I'll say it now. It's the kind of situation where everyone kind of has a point, but then everyone goes wildly wrong.
Yeah.
It's this mentality of something is therefore, but the therefore part is wrong. Right? Dating is fucked, okay? Therefore, we need the Taliban. Or hold on a second, mate. No, we don't really need the Taliban. Or therefore, we need more feminism. Fuck no. So, you're both wrong and right at the same time. So, yeah. And men's mental health is something that is bad now. I think it was always bad.
Yeah, probably. Like being a man requires...
it's tough.
A certain amount of grit, yeah.
Yeah. And the sources for grit are lower. And where do you acquire grit today? Or here it's still easy because big yards are still a thing, public parks are still a thing. Nightlife is still a thing. It's a safe country.
Yeah.
I was surprised last night because I couldn't sleep after 3 a.m. I enjoyed your city's nightlife, and it's amazingly lively, especially during summertime. That's something that our friends in the US don't get to enjoy, especially as minors, because you can't drive, and heaven forbid we build walkable cities. That's anathema to Americans. So how do you live out your teenage years?
Yeah.
And you don't learn to socialize then, and then you're suddenly at 20 and single.
No, and they're so Puritans. Like they believe that if a 16-year-old kisses another 16-year-old, it's the worst crime imaginable. At least based on what I'm seeing on the internet from Western morality.
Yeah, are we sure that that's not a foreign op? I don't know the answer. I'm genuinely asking. Are we sure?
No, I actually know people from America. I think like that's what they believe because like it didn't work up. I think it's mostly like the third wave feminism has traumatized an entire generation. The idea that if you look at a woman like a heterosexual man looks at a woman, that's sexualizing. That's bad, right? So
Well, it is sexualizing, but why is that bad?
you're demeaning her to an object.
And so does she.
I think like I get what you're saying, but I think like the
Women sexualize men as well.
Of course,
and that's
of
a
course.
good thing, again.
Yeah, sure, but like I don't think like the act of being attraction is like you're looking at her like a vagina, right? Like,
No, of course not. Yeah.
Although women do that because like the
Sometimes
entire
they do.
dildo industry, right, which is literally just a toy of a penis, is $1 billion industry.
Yeah, and so is the flashlights. Let's not kid ourselves. The sex toy industry is huge. But yes, 2/3 of the customers, even slightly more than that, depends on the country, is women. Yeah. So if we're into objectification is bad, okay, let's start with the 70% of the customers of the sex toy industry. Let's talk about blame
Well,
there.
someone made the study. Like I think it was more than 60% of women in America have a sex toy.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised that because again, 70% of the customers are women.
Yeah, so
globally.
like every time someone goes, it's like, oh, you're a coomer. And it's like, yeah, your mom has a sex toy.
Yeah, and there's a 2/3 chance that I'm right. There's a two, but and again, is that really a fair answer? Not in the sense, of course, you should insult the mother of someone who calls you randomly a coomer. Of course, they deserve it.
Well, no, but the word itself now seems to be applied to anyone that likes tits and ass.
Yeah, and
it's like, come on.
anyone who is a sexual being.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
Effectively.
any straight man that has a sex drive, and you look at Twitter, the people who are gay, they never get this type of criticism.
Even though they're more hypersexual.
Even though, yeah.
Statistically speaking, anyway.
I had a friend that was into diaper porn. Like I looked into his likes,
Goodness me.
right? And he was
Back in
out
the days
there.
when they were public, yeah.
Yeah, and he was out there complaining about the video game that came out, which had a pretty female character. Like she had tits and ass, and he was like, "Oh, you're a bunch of coomer degenerates." And I look at his likes, and dude, like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, but speaking of which, how's your Coomer game going?
It's going well. Hopefully, I'll release this year.
That should be fun.
Yeah,
You'll
I'll give you a copy when it's out.
You'll be getting a lot of concern trolling for it.
Probably, most likely. I did make it mostly as a troll, so.
So I guess you're expecting that. But the thing is that not treating mental health seriously in the past turned out to be a good idea because it compelled people to acquire grit. But apparently now it's probably a bad idea. But it's morely a... I don't know how to frame this. In the past, we would treat everyone terribly, which forged stronger people. Yeah, it forged stronger people, not just men, stronger women as well.
Yeah.
Right? Now, after several decades of coddling women and telling them essentially double think, you're strong and independent and equal, but you're also special, which is double think, right? Now there's suddenly an imbalance that is actually harming both. It's harming women as well because at some point they have to struggle, have to find reality, and they do.
Well, there was that New York Post article, right?
New York Times, a former newspaper.
New York Times, yeah. And I also noticed something interesting. There was a study at the university that promoted a lot of women. It had like affirmative action, went all the way until there were 50 men, 50 women, but they kept the affirmative action going. And what they noticed is like what it was like 80% women. They notice a huge drop in women because apparently women also want a nightlife. They also want the significant other, right? So like you would go in a place that was coddling women, and apparently like women was like, where's the men? And the men that were there were also I guess more weak, right? Like they were
Weaker, yeah.
they were weaker in order to survive
The
the
environment.
environment. Yeah,
Yeah,
and so
although
women were didn't like that.
yeah, if I were, I was very sexual when I was a teenager. Yeah, if that had happened when I was a teenager, I would have probably gone there and just picked a harem. Well, for a few nights or whatever. If something pans out of it, great. If not, hey, it doesn't matter. I
Yeah,
had sex.
until you get a crazy one, right? That accuses you of
Yes, but then again, I'm thinking in the context when I was a teenager here.
yeah.
Right, where such an accusation would at worst raise a few weird questions from adults and be like, whatever, kids fooling around. And that would be the end of it, right? Because that's the thing, even when, women would, some women, especially the crazies, the hot crazy axis, which is always undefeated, would sometimes make shit up, of course, because, false allegations of sexual harassment aren't a new thing. There's entire chapters in history about
I
it.
think they're not as popular here. Like people go like, okay, well, we're going to take you seriously. Let's see what happens. Like, what evidence do you have? And then they ask the guy. It's like, where were you? What happened that night? Like people don't automatically believe just because the
Yes.
accusation is labeled, right?
Yeah, yes. And also here there is a 50% chance that you will get punished for filing a false police.
False accusation.
Yeah. And if it's a serious enough, okay, maybe you won't go to jail because usually first offense doesn't land you in jail unless it's murder, and sometimes not even murder. Depends. But it's not really fun to have a criminal record. So you can have all sorts of limitations. So as a result, there is some disincentive. And why can't our American friends learn that from us? Not just from Romania, but all of Eastern
The
Europe has.
puritanical mindset.
What?
It's a very rigid morality, right? Like they believe in universal morality. They believe that this is how things should be done, like how I'm doing it in my family. Everyone else has to do it, and there's no context, no nuance.
But they had it. Because they were more puritanical in the 1850s than they are now.
Yeah, and their kids rebelled, and then they went puritanical in the opposite way, because like the woke ideology is still built around the puritanical building blocks.
Yes, the fundamentals are the same.
Call out culture, rigid morality, like no deviation. You can't be correct on 99 of the issues, but not believe that trans women are women, right? So like all this other stuff. And yeah, like they genuinely do not allow any type of nuance or context or like if something is bad, it's bad. It's not like this is less bad and this is more bad.
But the decontextualization from history is very interesting to observe, and it's very unique to Americans. Everyone else seems to eventually figure it out, but Americans, we've been waiting for over 150 years for them to figure it out, and they still haven't. Like in the sense that you should check the laws concerning teenage sex and age of consent and age of marriage in any state of the U.S. until 1880.
I think it was like 12, 13.
In 9 and 7.
Yeah, but like think about it from the perspective of an explorer that goes into the new world, right?
But
like you're probably dying very soon. Like if you're not getting sick,
yes,
you got some tribes descending on you.
Yes, but think about it this way: just because the law was that doesn't mean that was the norm. It wasn't. So they were able to understand that we have the law to prevent weird convictions and weird cases. But the social norm is this, but the law is more permissive than the
Didn't
social
they have
norm.
like arranged marriages between kids then? It's like I would know your kids, you would know mine, and it's like okay, well they're going to get married.
Some did, some didn't.
Shotgun weddings.
Shotgun weddings were a bit more common, yes. But arranged marriages depends on the state, depends on the how many explorer descendants, and because a lot of it was because of the frontier, yeah. But the thing is that they were able to understand this difference between this is the social norm, but the law will be more permissive than the social norm because some people don't really, live up to the social norm. But they're also not dangerous criminals. So let's put the law a little bit more permissive.
Yeah, they don't have the gray area. That's a really good point. Like I noticed this with Americans. Like they, in fact, like they sometimes the social norms they manage to punish people not by sending them to prison, but by getting them fired, by getting them ostracized, and that's a puritanical mentality. And so they will not apply the legal system where you get to show your evidence to prove what.
It's more of a court of public opinion.
Moral court of public opinion, yes. And usually, like for instance, there was this case, a streamer, Dr. Disrespect. Did you hear about it?
No.
Apparently, he was found chatting with a 17-year-old.
Okay.
Okay. Well,
How old is he?
well, he is married, and that was my problem because I was like, well, okay, hold on a little bit.
Doesn't
This
matter.
guy's married, has
Doesn't
a
matter.
family. Like, what the fuck, you know? Whatever. They canceled him for it, right?
But again, how old is he and what exactly?
I think he's like 30, 35.
Okay, and what was the conversation about?
We don't know. He said that it was something inappropriate. Like he was being blackmailed by Twitch. You say that because you're in Eastern Europe, right?
Yeah,
But like for the Americans, this was like a huge topic. And if you don't agree, they will cancel you as well.
Yeah, and
Like you need to be shocked.
yeah, and how exactly the canceling works if you refuse to give a damn?
You lose sponsorships. You get banned from the social media platform. I think like even when he was logging in to play games, like other people that knew him would log off, so like he wouldn't be able to stream properly.
Yeah, that sounds like kindergarten shit. And it seems to be affecting only a certain type of demographics. Because, Stephen Molyneux did things far worse than that, and he got cancelled, 50 times? Somehow he's still there. His cult is still there. He's actually bigger now. And now he's back on Twitter as well by convincing everyone that everyone has to apologize to him. Right?
I haven't followed him.
Yeah, he's now back on Twitter. He refused, even after Elon bought the platform, he was like, no, I'm not coming back to Twitter until you lift the ban and explicitly apologize to me because it was your fault. Right? And he stood on principle for another 3 years and something until everyone had to, okay, fine. It was our fault. You're awesome. Stefan Molyneux is not a particularly wise guy. But, if he could do it, and again, he's ugly, he has controversial opinions,
No, of course,
very
yeah.
controversial opinions. Now, if he could do it, then why can't people who are more closer to the mainstream, I'm giving Stefan Molyneux precisely because he's very controversial, right? If he can do that, why can't people who are closer to the mainstream just adopt that?
And we're talking just like the cultural mindset,
Yeah.
right? Like not the what's right or not. Like I was trying to say that there is no leeway.
Right.
Like for instance, in Europe, like 16 is the age of consent, right? So
No, it depends on the country.
depends on the country, but like in most countries, it's around 16,
No, it's around 15.
15.
Yes, and with many countries with 14 and 12.
Yeah, so like I was watching when this controversy happened. It's like how many Europeans are like, what the, like
Nobody
why,
would care.
or they would be like, why aren't they upset that the guy was married?
Yeah, maybe.
Like
yeah,
why are they upset that the guy had kids?
yeah, in Eastern Europe, that would be the only maybe question, but still, eventually,
Like as a gossip thing,
yeah,
like,
as a gossip thing, and eventually it's like, what, it's his and his wife's problem.
but the Americans took it very serious. Here's another example. Bill Clinton, right?
right.
Like sucking off Monica Lewinsky.
The other
like
way
that
around.
was a
She
huge,
sucked him off. But
huge American scandal.
Yeah.
Right?
Nowadays, not really a big issue.
No, but like nowadays, every single French president besides Macron had
an
a
official
mistress,
mi-
an official mistress, right?
Yeah.
And I actually talked about this on the live stream, and the Americans would be like, well, how can you vote for someone immoral? Like, well, what do you mean you would vote for that person? And it's like, well,
no,
yeah, but like he does the job. Like the Romanian president, Traian Băsescu, like
Yeah,
allegedly
he had.
fucked Elena Udrea in the presidential office, right?
It's not allegedly. I know for sure this happened.
Okay. And I was like, well, yeah, he fixed the economy. And it's like, how can you vote for a Kumar in office? Like, V, are you insane? Like, how would you vote for that?
No, you don't get.
You're a disgusting person. You're
Okay, fine, but he gained votes when that was leaked to the press.
What did he?
Yeah, because a lot of people will be like, based.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, but like this is the fundamental difference between these ideologies. Like one is about purity, and they would rather vote for someone that's socially pure but incompetent
Yeah,
economically.
it's no wonder that the progressive era in the US was called the social purity movement. Yeah, yeah, fair enough.
Well, we do the opposite.
Yeah.
Like we would rather vote for someone that even is a grifter, but at least we know that he will give us something. Like he's competent in governing, or he actually makes a fundamental change.
Or at least doesn't do worse.
We have this expression in Iași, bă, fură, dar mai dă și la noi.
Yeah. No, the more common one everywhere is a furat, dar și făcut. He stole, but he also did something.
He stole that, he also did
Yeah,
something.
I remember there is some academic that has a large followership, American guy who has a large followership on X, and he asked precisely that because he has a lot of Eastern European friends, and he asked precisely that, well, maybe we should vote for a mayor that we know is corrupt, but will do the necessary changes that everyone agrees on. And it was only a narrow majority of his followers that agree. like 51 point something percent, quite a lot, and it was quite a controversial statement. But I'm like, hey, but now half of your followers know that they live in Eastern Europe. So hey, that's progress. 5 years ago, my preferred option would have gotten 2%. Now it
Yeah,
has
this is what my foreign friends don't understand. It's like when you have the mentality that everyone steals, then the next conversation is like, okay, let's see how much, and let's see who else actually does something besides the stealing.
And not to mention that if you accidentally find someone that steals very little or not at all,
Then he's a stupid person.
well, either he's stupid, but most importantly, when you encounter the most common case, which of course they'll steal, you won't be disappointed because you already started with the assumption that everyone steals. And yeah, it rubs them the wrong way, but because I got some of your followers actually got on my threads on this when I keep on insisting that everyone lives in Eastern Europe, and they're like, oh, but you know, that's the way they do it in Russia. And I'm like, no, that's the way they do it on most of the planet. It's not a Russian thing. It's not an Eastern European thing.
It's a non-American thing.
It's a non-American thing. Yeah,
so non-Western thing.
Yeah, no, not America. Come on, corruption in France. Italy is the most corrupt country in Europe by
European
far.
Union is the most corrupt.
European Union is the most corrupt organization on earth and the largest bureaucracy on earth, larger than the CCP.
Really?
Yes.
We got to be better than the CCP.
Yes. You know, the CCP has to manage in a totalitarian state 1.3 billion people. The EU is quasi-democratic and only 500 million people or whatever, and it's larger bureaucracy than the CCP.
Are you more watched in the European Union than you are in the CCP if you have a business? I mean, like the regulations, the legislations.
Depends on the business.
Depends on the business.
Usually, smaller businesses.
Do you get more freedom in China or in the EU? I mean,
Depends on the business. It really does depend on the business. If it's a business that has a chance of being political, it's probably the same or slightly worse in China, but not by much. It depends on where in the European Union as well, of course. Germany, probably the same as China. Romania, probably better in Romania than in China, but you still get.
But we're getting there, right?
Yeah, well, you're getting surveilled quite a bit because it's political or the potential of being political. But you know, if you have
What about the newspaper?
well, yeah, no, newspapers are more tightly regulated in China than in Europe. But then again, there aren't that many newspapers. Nowadays, newspapers in China are actually for external consumption. There's Chinese newspapers that, yeah, sure, you can find them in China.
You read a couple on your channel,
Yeah.
right? The China Daily, I think.
Yeah, that one is in English, but they do have in Mandarin as well that they sell abroad.
For the Chinese public.
For the Chinese public, but also for other people who speak Chinese and want Chinese news on.
What about streamers? How are they?
I don't know. I don't follow that segment.
Because I think like they're going to become the new press.
Probably, although it's a bit complicated because the Great Firewall of China is an issue.
And in the European Union?
Well, in the European Union, it's still disjointed. Come on.
Germany wanted to have like a streaming license.
Speaking of Germany, I don't know if you've seen the news. There's a definitive court decision that says shutting down a magazine because you don't like their opinions is not just wrong on procedural grounds. The whole law is wrong and ipso facto unconstitutional. By the way, Mr. Bundestag, that would be the parliament, can you please rewrite it? Or maybe not.
That's interesting.
Yeah, the Compact magazine, which was deemed by their version of the Muhabarat, the BFV, the Bureau for
So
Defending...
basically like newspapers, right?
Yeah, it's a newspaper. It's called Compact. Exactly a year ago, their version of the SWAT came in and confiscated everything and shut down the magazine, shut down their YouTube channel, shut down everything on reasons of far-right extremists and whatnot. And exactly a
The
year...
Constitutional Court? Or?
No. The prosecutors, their version of I guess the
The court?
No, BFV, which is the Bureau for Defending the Constitution. It's effectively their Stasi, right? There is no equivalent. You know, in normal free countries, there is there is no equivalent of BFV in normal non-totalitarian countries, right? Nobody has that equivalent. I mean, the CCP has their equivalent. It's called the Bureau of Ideological Conformity.
What did Ceausescu have?
It was the censorship department.
The censorship.
The Securitate. It was part of the DSS.
Don't we have like the China?
No.
With the new powers that they want to add
No,
to it.
because the National Audio Council cannot shut down a publication. They don't have the authority to call the SWAT on you to confiscate your equipment. They just can't do that.
So basically, if they had that, that would be the equivalent.
No, they would. It also would require extra powers that the CNA can't have by constitution. But in Germany, apparently they could. Now they can't because after a year of litigation, the far right won in court with a unanimous opinion that no, this not only this has gone too far, but upon further thought, no, the law itself is haram.
Yeah.
So even in Germany, you can have some of these victories, which on free speech grounds, I think it's a milestone for Germany. We'll see how the politicians will react to it. But yeah, in any event, there is someone here that asks exactly that. With wokeism on its way out, I anticipate the next wave of brain rot coming from the Anglosphere will be Protestant Puritanism, exactly what you're saying, or an extension of safetyism. Am I too much of a doomer, or is it reasonable?
I think there's many bubbles. Regarding Christianity, I don't think you'll see like an actual Christian denomination. I've seen what I like to call digital Christianity. So digital Christianity...
O să ne rugăm la Printul Digitale cu Isus as
Yeah.
our future national poet.
Yeah, like digital Christianity are usually people that lack a sense of community, that they want belonging. And so they go on Discord server. Usually, like there's kind of like a internet televangelist, if you will, like a person like Melanie Mac, for instance, that talks about Christianity, and they share memes with Jesus with machine guns, Jesus on raptors, Jesus with laser eyes, and he's smiting sinners.
There was also that anime girl that laughed at as Catholic. I forget the name. There was plenty of memes like that.
Yeah. And so what they are doing, in my opinion, is the same cancel culture that we saw, but it's targeted to what they think is degenerate.
What they think is heresy.
Yeah, so like, for instance, Japanese artist that draws some shit, all of a sudden his entire mentions are filled, and they're demanding that his account get banned. He flags them, demanding the banking.
Now, to be fair, it's Japanese, therefore non-Christian, therefore heresy.
Yeah, but
I'm joking.
No, I get what you're saying, but it's like pretty much like the same vibe that I had in 2016, where the social justice were on Tumblr, and they were starting to form like these cliques, these mobs. And so if they manage to tap into either some organization that funds them, or if they manage to get some political support, then...
Which they might.
Yeah, then the wheel is going to spin again, right? Like you're still going to have the same cancerous internet that existed with like people looking for reasons to be offended, but now it's going to be a different reason, right?
And probably even bigger. I mean, Tumblr was small comparative to the Twitter mobs.
Yeah.
Which the Twitter mobs of 2016 were terrifying enough, but the Twitter mobs of current X also bigger. Still not yet organized, but once they do...
They're in different bubbles, yeah.
But once they do, and
and then they're going to affect businesses, not necessarily for the better, I think, because like usually when the public affects the businesses outside of the normal economic demands, you end up with awful business decisions.
Right. Really? I mean, is it that always the case?
Well, didn't we saw with the left how they forced all the companies to go with the pride flags and shit, and hire people that weren't based on merit?
That probably
right?
harmed them quite a bit.
And I'm pretty sure like these ones will do as well. Like they would want people from their ideological bent, regardless if they have the merit or not, to be hired, and for businesses to show that, look, we got these people in.
Right. Well, quite frankly, I understand their instinct because... ultimately, the non-left has always had this problem of being incapable, some would say cucked, into making this very rigid and necessary friend-enemy distinction. I don't care if that person is more competent. They're the enemy. Because that's we were discussing earlier before we started the filming about entrepreneurs and various classes of people that have...
Sure, but like...
At some point,
no, I see your point.
Some revenge and some just because I can.
Yeah,
it's kind of necessary.
No, I get what you're saying.
You can't have healing without some repentance, and I don't mean it in a religious sense.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that I think like there's still room for context and nuance, right? Like the reason that a lot of entertainment is falling, and in my opinion, even the reason why Boeing is falling from the sky, is because they kept hiring based on friend-enemy distinction. And it
although
needs to be dialed.
In Boeing, it's just racism.
Probably.
It's not even. Yeah, and it was.
But my point,
it
like,
was ideological, but
yes,
yeah.
but it has to be dialed back a little bit. Like I get it. The righteous anger and whatever. But like after we have the chimp out, let's dial it back a little bit.
Yeah, but we haven't had it. Yes, okay, fine, but we haven't had the chimp out yet. Not the proper one. I mean, we barely ousted the president of Harvard, but Harvard still exists, which, sure, now it's churning out 25% unemployment rate, which is amazing news. But gotta pump those numbers up. 100% of Harvard graduates should be unemployed. And once we get that, then we can chimp out to take down Harvard entirely, like, to cease to exist. Here lies Harvard. And
How many years does Harvard have?
well, depends on how they're willing to structure their expenses once they'll have to actually spend their own.
No, I mean, how old is the university?
160.
I'm a traditionalist. Like, let's reform it.
By Europe standards, is a new university. So, everything that is younger than 500 years is just
Yeah,
new.
I don't like this whole cultural vandalism where you just destroy everything from the past because of the last couple of years.
Yeah, but in case of Harvard, it's not the last couple of years. It's the
is
last
it more than that?
120 years. I mean, I'm sorry, because
It was consistently bad.
yeah, I mean, the progressive era started with them. Thomas Sowell was saying 50 years ago, is like, ever notice that literally everything bad in American history has a Harvard man in the center of it? And he was right 50 years ago. He's still right today. He just turned 94 and started his new website about how universities suck, right? Dr. Thomas Sowell still shit posts at 94, almost the same age as Iliescu, except he's still doing good to the world. Name me something bad in American history recent in the last 50 years that doesn't have a Harvard man.
The pulling from Afghanistan.
Even that one has several Harvard graduates actually around it. The organizers some of them are also Harvard graduates. That's the thing. Almost everything has a Harvard graduate. So at some point it'd be like, 120 years. That's 6 generations. On the playground is three strikes, you're out. It's been 6 strikes. Can we not wait for the 7th?
Yeah, I agree.
At some point, you gotta fuck off. So you're saying that Mr. Mike is not particularly too much of a doomer. Well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, it is what I'm observing in my bubble, at least. I don't know if it's like the internet at large, but it seems to be the case.
Right. There's plenty of questions that are probably easy to anticipate. Do you allow your kids screen time? I suppose no.
Unfortunately, like my kid is 1 year old, so my wife spends most of the time with him, and my wife watches TV.
Ah, right.
So
that
it's going to catch some glimpses, but no, like once my kid is going to start talking, and probably around the age of 2, we'll probably have some TV time the same way I did when grow up, right? So maybe like 30 minutes, 1 hour a day, and then I'll start allowing him more freedoms as he grows up.
Right. Have you already downloaded your pirated Tom and Jerry and all of the...
No, but I'm actually planning on downloading stuff that I grew up with, like the Aladdin TV show, Stargate, like...
I can send some of them to you, because I already have them downloaded.
You're prepared for it?
No, I mean, I'm involved in the education of several dozens of kids of different ages, and I just keep all of the material, and whenever, I have my own tables, I'm like, okay, that's enough, this is Stargate o'clock for this one.
That's so cool.
I'm serious.
Like talking about mental health, like this would actually be more helpful than whatever they're talking at a psychologist. Although I think like you'd get grifters if you try to...
Yeah, probably the reason I'm a successful mentor is because I hate people. So the idea of trying to either take over the guy's life to manage it myself, I'm like, I already manage too many people. In fact, I'm trying to get rid of... it's an extra burden. Why the fuck would I want to take over your life? No, I'm trying to get you as fast as possible back on your feet so you can fuck off, because I already have too many people reliant in some way, shape, or form, either emotionally or educationally on me. So less of a burden. That's great. So there's that. But it's also the phrase "it takes a village" has been very much abused, either to justify socialism or to justify, effectively kicking out fathers. But in reality, it takes a village. It started precisely with that. You would have various uncles and aunts that would help and would do effectively collective upbringing.
I think that's actually normal in
It is
mankind.
normal, but not in too many Westoid countries. It is normal here. I mean, it's not weird at all.
Yeah, like my mother-in-law is really here too.
That too. I mean, have you seen the discourse on Zoomers and millennials aren't having kids because it's too expensive and whatnot. And
Yeah, like where's your grandparents?
yeah, where's your grandparents? Oh, but I can't involve the grandparents,
Why not?
or the opposite type of shaming. If you need your parents to help you with the kid, then that's a failure on you. And I'm like, you guys are retarded. Why would you deprive the kid of
his-
experience with
yeah.
grandparents?
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's probably why this crisis is happening worse there. They've been depriving their kids
Of their family tree, yeah.
and of the wisdom of the grandparents. Even if it's negative wisdom.
Yeah.
If the grandparents are crazy, at least you will have a closer example of
Like,
don't be that.
don't be like that.
Don't be that.
Yeah, I think it's also because of what you said. Like people hate each other more because of the internet, especially with the woke ideology. Like I know a lot of families that didn't go to the family dinner together or cut off all connections
Because of the election.
Yeah, because the mother wouldn't believe that the trans woman is woman.
Oh goodness me! That for many years I thought that's just internet exaggeration.
No, it's true.
I know it's true now, but it's still I still can't believe it in its totality. I mean, I can't imagine what crazy thing could my parents believe or not believe about politics.
Maybe during the pandemic.
No, although to be fair, my parents were mostly in agreement with me.
Like what if they were completely in disagreement with you?
Well, if they would have to cut me off, because if they had been in complete disagreement, that means that they wouldn't know what to see me, because I didn't take the myocarditis-inducing clot shot, so therefore I'm a danger to their health, and they would have to believe something like that, which again, given the personality of my parents, would be crazy ipso facto. So
No, but we're talking in general, not in your case, right? Like you asked, like what could in Romania happen in order to have like families break up.
Yeah, but even in those cases, the more panicked relative still somewhat try to see their kids. Okay, fine, we'll wait for the summer and see outdoors or whatever. They still found a way to mitigate these things.
I actually know, right? So during the last election, the one with Nicu Jordan and this was the closest we ever got as a country to the type of division that Americans
Divisive
experience.
rhetoric.
Yeah. Like I actually had people in my family like saying, "Oh well, I'll not come over to if you don't go and vote." And I was like,
Fine, I'll go and vote for the far right.
right? No, it was like with Lasconi back then, and I was like, I'm not going to vote. Like, there's no one on the list that I'm interested in. And so they got like really upset, and it's like for the first time ever that I've noticed this.
Yeah, which is probably why George Simeon got so many votes in the first round, because the guys who supported the other guy probably made more commercials, more free time, more free propaganda for the far right than the far right itself. Because again, we're very spiteful people. Oh, I'm an evil person according to your little corporate bullshit bubble, because I vote for that guy. Oh, thank you. I had no idea who I'm going to vote. Now I do.
Unironically, like the reason I hated USR and I never voted for them, and like everyone that finds out how spiteful I am, that they're like crossing themselves. I was taking my cat to the vet, and the USR was like a newly formed party. I didn't even know about them at the time. Like this is way back.
Yeah, 16.
And they had like this movement that blocked the entire street by moving back and forth.
Yeah, they would
and
block the pedestrians.
Yeah, and I'm sitting there with my cat, and I'm wondering who the fuck are these people and who opposes them.
Yeah. Yes. So, anyone who despises those people will be at least temporarily.
Like I don't vote, I don't care, but like whomever these people tell me they're bad, that's the person that I'm voting. Why are they doing this to me?
Yes.
I didn't think like, oh, they're organizing something. No, they're personally doing this to me. Like they're literally in front of me, preventing me taking my cat to the vet.
Yeah, and if they're willing to do that when they have zero power, what the fuck they would do it if
exactly.
they have power? So so there's that. Yeah, fair enough. What's your view on social media, gaming, TV, or YouTube for kids? And at what age will you buy yours an internet connecting device?
I think like these are tough questions. Obviously, it depends on your kid. Like you're supposed to know your kid better than the flow chart or this is a standardized. I do think it's bad, especially for an early age, because I believe children should experience what life is like outside and interact and stay in the sun. But I'm not going to be exaggerated and not realize that my kid is going to go probably to school and he's going to have other colleagues that do have social media, and they're going to ask me, it's like, Daddy, why do those kids have and I don't? So some supervised time, you know, I don't know how much I will see then. But I do think like being in the other extreme, where you ban everything and you don't allow everything, is
Sounds like a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. And yeah, we'll see what happens is probably the correct answer. Because again, having been involved in the education of several kids at different ages, I've noticed that, you know, some of them are actually very much okay with managing even the potential dangers as early as 10 or 11. Whereas with others, you know, they're 16, and my recommendation still stays that you ain't getting off of supervision. Because, you know, you're still lagging on this, and you'll have to wait a little bit more and whatever. So yeah, there are some differences that you cannot know them now at age 1.
I think like the worst thing that happened.
And also it depends on how the internet will look like 10 years
Yeah,
from
that
now.
you know, if everything is chatbots and people stop talking to each other.
Or the other way around. I mean, nobody seems to be considering this. Everything is chatbox. The dead internet theory becomes real. And
People go outside.
Yeah, and people drop it. It's like it's all slop. There has to be something better out there because everything is slop. So
Would be interesting.
yeah, maybe at least with spiteful people like us,
Yeah.
like ours, as in Eastern Europe generally, it's like no.
And I noticed like there's this common misconception that social media is safe. Right? And I think it's because all companies like are really occupied with protecting their brands, and they're all brand safety, and look what terms of service we have.
Yeah, they spend a lot of time cleaning up the mess, the PR mess.
Yeah, and you have politicians that like constantly pass new legislation to protect kids. When in reality, I'm looking at the real world, and I'm seeing in America, there's a lot of channels now, how to catch a predator. I think even Romania has a couple. And what they do is make fake accounts, you know, kind of like that... would you sit down? What was it? Chris Hansen, I think. They're mimicking that, and I'm looking at how they have like a new predator every single day, like 5-6 predators per week, and you realize it's
Some of those are scripted though, but yeah, I get your point.
maybe they are. I don't know, but like the idea that your kid can go on social media and that's the danger, because like all they do is they fake a profile of a kid, and then the predators come to them. And they say that they usually go on Facebook, TikTok, like these public places.
Yeah, well, in Facebook, sometimes we got to watch live beheadings, live rape, live gang rape, and this happens quite often. Right?
Yeah, you can't really.
Broadcast.
Yeah, you can't really stop the live broadcast because you don't. I mean, if it's.
I mean, I watched several terrorist attacks on live on Facebook.
The one in Israel, I think.
No, not the one. I've the Christchurch terrorist attack in New Zealand. I watched it, all of it live, because I was on a chat that does OSINT, and they're like, "Shit, this is actually starting now."
Yeah, people wouldn't believe it.
Yeah. So I watched several.
No, but like my point with this is.
But
that,
you know, I grew up and you grew up with live leak and things far more horrific.
Oh yeah, like back when we grew up, you'd send a link to someone like just to click it so you can shock them, right? Like the 2 Girls 1 Cup. It's like the idea is to see their reaction as they're getting shocked.
Yes.
But my point is that people believe the internet is safe, and it's definitely not. And so I do think like some parent supervision is definitely required, especially in the beginning.
Yeah, and it will depend on how it will look. Some countries, like France, for instance, is attempting to ban 15-year-olds from accessing social media. But I always ask, okay, how? Fine, you wrote the law. Okay.
Well, I think you can, like, if you find one in public with a phone, like,
Sure.
right? Schools.
Yes, schools have already been banned.
Like, I don't think you're going to have like 100% ban, nor is it possible. But I suppose like the same way, you know, you ban kids from drinking alcohol in the United States. Like, of course, they're going to still drink beer, right? But they're not doing it in public. They're having a more difficult time pulling it off.
Yeah, and also by lying, effectively. I mean, I bought your local newspaper here in Iași, and you know, one of the front page titles was like, 2 stores were shut down for selling alcohol to minors. And you know, just as I was reading that, I was like, yesterday I witnessed 100 instances of alcohol being sold to minors, even large supermarkets. Like, nobody gives a shit.
I really hate the word minors because like people think like 5-year-old or 6-year-old,
Yeah.
but they're probably like 16, 17.
Yes.
So like with our drinking age when we started, basically.
No, I started earlier because I'm a proper Moldovan. Way earlier, actually.
Yeah.
But at 16, I was already experienced.
No. Like, I understand. Like, the law is that you're not supposed to sell alcohol to people under the age of 18, and I do know the reality. But like, the reality is you can order it from Bringo.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you can literally get.
No one asks for ID for that.
No.
Yeah. But I suppose the logic there is that you need a bank card to pay for it. But I think there is a cash
You can,
option.
and yeah, you can have a credit card when you're 16, right?
I think
And
so,
I think like
yeah.
this is because we're importing American legislation rather than making our own based on our culture. And
Yeah, well, to be fair, even in the US there are differences. I mean, there are some states that have no drinking age, so it's actually legal to drink alcohol at
under
any age.
21, because I felt like they're really ridiculous
No,
with
no,
this.
with buying, but with the drinking is there is no limit.
Oh,
right.
okay.
In other states, the drinking age is 16, but buying is 21. In other states, is both are 21. It depends on the state. I mean, even in the US, it's not a uniform
No,
thing.
but like this idea of alcohol to people under 16, right? I get it. But like after 16, I think like the legislation should reconsider.
No. Even in Europe, I mean, beer and wine are not technically speaking alcohol.
Really?
Yeah, in Germany, for instance, is food.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, because tell Germans that they can't drink beer. Like, really? So no, it's legally food. In Moldova, in Republic of Moldova, wine is legally food. Because again, tell a Moldovan that they can't drink wine, especially.
So basically, like what you're saying is that with
You-
tiquete de masa, you can
yes,
buy. Okay.
yeah, you're not allowed to buy vodka at 15, but wine, sure, it's food.
Makes sense.
Yeah. To be fair, Moldovan wine is also among the best in the world. So depriving 15 or 14-year-olds of at least a glass of that amazing thing
Well,
would
there's
be
also
a crime
like
against
I actually
humanity.
had this conversation with an American, and I was telling him, it's like, look, when I grew up, I noticed that a lot of Americans that visited would behave like animals at parties.
Yes.
Like they would drink themselves under the table.
Or to death in some occasions.
And I was like, what the fuck are you doing? And then I realized why they're doing this is
they're
because,
finally free to try.
yeah, like
And they'll try all of it.
exactly. Like here when we had the party, right? Like we were 12th grade or whatever. You go to a party and let's say you actually do get drunk. You come home, your parents are like, what the fuck did you do? Like, don't you know how to drink properly? Like, what is wrong with you? Right? So you get a scolding, but you don't ruin your life. If you can't, if you don't have like this time where you actually learn how to drink, then what happens in America is that, okay, they're 21, now they can drink. So they get wasted. And then they go to university, they get bad grades, or maybe they even miss.
Yeah, or they do something stupid, like start a fight or
Or they do
whatever.
something stupid. It's one thing when you start the fight and you're 15, and it's another thing when you're starting
Yes.
the fight and you're like
there
25.
are no consequences for being stupid in public at 14.
Exactly.
Unless you, even if you accidentally kill someone, the consequences are marginal, right? Because
Yeah, you're not a legal adult.
It was by accident. Maybe you do some juvie, whatever. Who cares? If you accidentally kill someone after you're being shit-faced at 22, the consequences are severe, right? So even the worst case scenario are still less consequential at 14 than at 22. So why not let them drink at 14?
Well, no, 14, I would say it's maybe with their parents, not in a public place. But like 16, I would think that the law should rethink.
No, the reason I'm asking is because there is another question here that it sounded almost as if I wrote it myself. It's something that I struggle with quite severely. There are some studies showing that young generations consume less beer and smokes less cigarettes than the previous generations. True. My hunch is that this is because they get addicted to weed and other drugs, which is mostly true. And then being a vegetable on their couch. Okay, that's weird formula. It doesn't work in English like that. Instead of socializing at bars or at the ashtray with their friends. If that is the case, it is, and mostly. How can a parent combat this besides getting their teens hooked on nicotine and alcohol? And like, why not that?
I mean, I think it may be due to social media use, right? Like if you're spending a lot more time at home at social media.
But I do smoke when I use my computer. I don't
A
drink
lot of
alcohol,
people
though.
don't because they damage their monitor.
Right.
So maybe.
But it's like it's less than $100 a monitor. So man, come on, they're really not that expensive. And again, I smoke a lot. I really do.
I noticed.
Even by no, you haven't. Trust me. You should see. I mean, my ashtray at my work office is like huge.
Yeah.
And it still needs to be cleaned up relatively routinely. So.
No, but the question was like why it's happening, right? And,
So you're saying just because why
well,
not?
I mean, we have to look at what changed in the lifestyle of our generation versus the one of new generation. And I think like the new generation is definitely staying at home more, and so they're probably smoking less.
Yeah, but they do smoke more weed, so it's not like the instinct to get a smoke like.
Well, I think they smoke more weed because during Ceausescu there was less weed in the country.
Well,
So like now
yeah,
the
but we got
drug.
all of it after 1990, and it still wasn't tempting for our
Yeah, but I think
generation.
like there's bigger problem now because like
Now we can
the
afford it, right?
maybe yeah.
Yeah, the standard of living increased. But okay, how about the West? In the West, on one hand you have these grifters from public health. All of public health is a grift. They're like, oh look, our great achievements we got because there's 0.0.3 or whatever less cardiovascular diseases because everyone stopped smoking. And I'm like, yes, but there are more smokers of weed than ever in history, and if you add those, in fact, the total number of smokers is higher than.
I don't
So
know. I think like maybe they stigmatize tobacco so much.
yes, they did.
They stigmatize tobacco so much to the point where if like tobacco and weed are stigmatized and you're going to do something stigmatized anyway,
Why not go
why
straight
not
for
go
weed?
for the straight the weed? Yeah, like maybe that's the case.
It definitely is the case in California where weed
It's legal now,
is
right?
legal and is legal everywhere, but tobacco not. So
Yeah.
now, if I want to smoke at a patio at a bar, if it's weed, it's
I
permitted.
didn't know
If
that.
it's tobacco, it's not. So, I mean, it's like one of these crazy.
I'm happy that I intuitively figured it out without.
Yeah, so now I'm like, goodness me. And of course, the teenagers will pick up the weed because you want to smoke when you finally get a chance to get outside with your friends at a bar. And if it's only weed is permitted, then
Yeah, I mean, I never smoked weed, never smoked cigarettes. But I assume, like, if I were to go to California and, I'm forced to try anything, then yeah, I would try the one that's more edgy, right? Like, if you're legally allowed. And so, maybe that's why.
yeah.
Like, if you're stigmatizing tobacco and you don't have, like, the release drug,
Right. And how can a parent combat this?
like, what? Make sure that your kid doesn't smoke anything?
No, no, no. How do you get them to socialize more besides getting them hooked on nicotine and tobacco and
Oh,
alcohol?
Um, I don't even know if it's possible. Like, I think what your kid wants is also something that can be taken into consideration. Like, you can't mind control,
Of
right?
course.
But what you can do, I suppose, like find out what hobbies does he have, and then send him to a place where his hobbies can be performed in a social group. So, like for instance, if your kid is a geek, like find a place where they have board games, where they organize events, and he can meet people there. If he likes drawing, send him to an art club. Like you have like a professor that teaches board. So like find what he likes. Usually, if it's a boy, I think like most guys like sword fighting, right? Like there's actually in Yash a place where you can train to fight with swords.
No, that sounds like fun.
Yeah, or you can send them to learn how to fight with paintball. Like activities that are actually fun to do.
Maybe some family example helps. My folks also are heavy smokers of tobacco and don't drink like at all, right? I turned out very similarly.
Yeah, you don't even have a beer when we go out.
No, because I don't drink alcohol. And having lots of coffee and cigarettes scratches my itch for vicious behavior, I suppose, or for vices generally, in a way that helped quite a lot long term. Because most of my peers, when I was a teenager, were just starting to try drugs, and seeing those puking their asses off, sometimes quite literally, you don't even imagine the side effects of some of the Soviet-made drugs that would make their way into the schools.
Crocodile.
No, that this is before Crocodile. No, I'm talking 1997, 1998.
I remember like there were usually mixing cough syrup with various shit.
No, that was the healthy version.
That was a healthy.
No, I mean, it's straight up pirated meth with fuck knows
Jesus.
what additives it had made in the Soviet Union or Russia.
Holy shit. Yeah.
Yeah, and this part of the country is just on the road because they were being sent to the west, but they were very cheap here because it was just the first stop on the road towards the west, right? So they were very cheap here. So that was the first type of drugs that my peers could afford, and I was just like, yeah, okay, we'll see what happens. I'm not curious yet, but maybe.
Do you know what happened to them after they grew up?
Yeah, well, some of them didn't end up addicts, but quite a few did, and it took them forever to wean themselves out of it, and some of them remained perpetual potheads.
Jesus.
And yeah, that shit literally lowers your IQ. So
Yeah.
I'm like, what's the matter of buying a carton of cigarettes? Because it's a neurostimulant. Nicotine is a neurostimulant. But unlike weed, which is also a neurostimulant, it doesn't make you dumber and prevents Alzheimer as well.
I didn't know that.
I'm serious. Look it up. How many patients of Alzheimer's
Are cigarette smokers.
are cigarette smokers? It's less than 1%.
Interesting.
Yeah, so for one reason or another. And the edgy speculation is because smokers die younger. Well, first of all, not anymore. And second of all, if that were the case, then why do we have 60-year-old or 50-year-old never smokers who get early Alzheimer's, but never 50-year-old smokers who get early Alzheimer's?
Interesting.
That never happens, actually. So yeah, because that's the other thing. By the way, public health got us the real trade-offs of smoking tobacco, added some bullshit on top of it, like straight up lies, but we're supposed to pretend that there are no benefits to it. And I'm like, there are at least 1.8 to 2 billion active continuous tobacco smokers on the planet. Minimum, right? Are they all a bunch of fucking idiots? 2 billion people, like a quarter of the human population are all idiots, including 100% of any serious intellectual until 2 minutes ago, right? Every single serious intellectual until the 1990s, all of them were tobacco smokers. Everyone is an idiot except for Fauci and his friends and the public health establishment.
Doesn't Fauci smoke as well?
Well, actually, not anymore, but he used to, yes, of course.
Yeah. Back when he was smart.
Now that you put it in these terms. So, that's the thing. I mean, we've been taken for a ride as stupid people, all of us. For various reasons. Same with alcohol. Now, I was, the NHS was like, any amount of alcohol is dangerous. Really?
I actually asked the doctor about why that is. And he said, well, yeah, like 1 glass of alcohol is actually healthy, but if I tell a patient to drink 1 glass, then the next day he drinks 2, and then he becomes...
Really? And if that is the case, how come the alcoholism rate is actually dropping? Even though alcohol is cheaper.
I'm telling you like what I've been told. And this was with a surgeon that was...
See, this is why I don't like doctors. They think that by lying to you, they're doing good to society.
That's the protocol, right?
Yes, and I'm like, no, you're an active evil because you know you're full of shit. And but it's for the greater good. Yeah, those people should be shot. Seriously.
Well, the conversation came that a patient had liver cirrhosis, right? Had a team of surgeons that fixing him up, public paid money, and then he goes back home and starts drinking. And it's like, okay, it kind of pisses people off, right?
Okay, but that's a special case. No, I'm discussing the NHS public guidance, like not for people who have liver problems or whatever.
Well, no, like for the public process, like a doctor in Romania will tell you, like, 1 glass of red wine per day is actually healthy.
Or at the very least, definitely not harmful.
Yeah, no, like they will tell you that.
Can we at least agree on that? Because that's the thing. But in the Anglosphere, now it's any amount for any person.
Yeah, it's the morality. Like I told you, they don't have the gray area. They're like, no, it's either good or bad. There's no in between. Either godly or wicked.
Yeah, pretty much. And we also don't recognize the difference in humans anymore. I know some people, if I give them half a beer, they'll be drunk. And I know some people who actually don't drink that much, but I can drink a full bottle of vodka and I'll still be able to jump in 1 feet and do whatever, all of that test that they do in the US.
That's nonsense, yeah.
Yeah, of course it's nonsense, but the thing is I can do it right. So I can still keep my balance. Why? Because, well, it turns out that being a bigger man tends to help than being a smaller man or a female. So.
Did you know that you can fail that test even if you're not drunk?
I know, yes. Of course it's nonsense, but then again, that's a lot of pseudoscientific nonsense. Is like therapy. Right. There was one with Chinese. Yeah, there you go. How do you see the gamer community reacting to the Chinese infiltration? It seems that there is no antibodies to reject socialism. Am I wrong?
They're actually acting very positive to the Chinese infiltration because they absolutely despise and have only spite to the Western.
Yeah, Western man bad, therefore anything else.
So like the Western studios, they completely lost the gamers, not because they only put out bad products, but because they would constantly insult you. Like they would.
I never understood why. I mean, I get it.
I know why. Because they hired ideologues as community managers.
Right.
Like many companies.
Who had no financial stake in the company.
Yes.
Right.
Like many companies that were making video games, they had to have ESG scores, right, from investors and stuff. And so they needed to hire women. And where do you put the woman? You put it in sales, in the legal department, in the community manager. And a lot of these women were like really rabid third wave feminists. And their whole marketing tactic was, we're going to cause a lot of stir, we're going to piss people off, and then they're going to talk about the game, and the game is going to be trending on social media, and that's our advertisement.
Right.
And so people now have
Great idea, doesn't work.
Yeah, it did work for a
It
while.
did work for a
actually.
while, yeah.
And a lot of people have pure hatred and disgust and disdain towards Western companies. And so now that the Chinese companies are coming, they would rather buy from them just to spite the West.
Right. And the Chinese companies, let me guess, they don't insult you.
No, they don't insult you, and they actually make good games. Like they're not releasing broken games. Compared to a AAA Western game that costs $120, like the Chinese one is 40, 50. Oftentimes the product is better. And so now the top sold games on Steam, last time I checked, Marvel Heroes, I think, Chinese game, Path of Exile 2, Chinese game, Wukong, Chinese game, Stellar Blade, Asian game. So yeah, Asia is going to dominate the entertainment.
Okay, yeah, but Asia overall dominating entertainment, that's logical. It's the larger continent. Well, the largest is
Well,
Africa.
it didn't happen up till now. It was the other way around.
Yes, but up until now, you still have the demographic inertia keeping things up. But now you have India, median age 29, and very developed country these days. They have a fucking functional space program that, unlike the Russian one, actually works, right? Europe doesn't have that, and the median age in Europe is 50.
I would be surprised if India makes an interesting video game.
They'll eventually do it, but they have been dominating in films for quite some time already.
Their style of film isn't international catch.
Not yet. And again, people think of Bollywood musical type of stuff, but no. India makes a lot of other films that are not that. People don't realize India has hundreds of large media film studios, and some of those are only the fact that they have a weird accent when they speak English. You realize that it's an Indian movie. Or if you catch it from the beginning, it says that it's made in India. But other than that, they're remarkably good. And yeah, sure, they still have some quirks that are kind of weird, but they'll fix that eventually.
Because right now, I grew up with American shit, and I hope that it manages to catch back up. Maybe you disagree.
No, I don't care.
No, probably. I mean, I wouldn't want my kid to grow up with Chinese entertainment. Because one of the reasons that a lot of people from my age like America is specifically because of the American entertainment. And so you get this level of soft power.
Yeah.
Where if a politician says something negative about the country, they will be like, hey, wait a minute, like, why are you against America? Like, they're nice people, they're good people, right?
Yeah, and they make good cowboy movies.
Make good cowboy movies, yeah. But imagine in the future, it's like someone says negative about China, and it's like, hey, I played this Chinese game. Like, why are you against China? China doesn't do anything.
Yeah,
bad.
the last 10 games I bought are all Chinese, and they're all good. What exactly is your problem?
Yeah, exactly.
Fair enough.
So like that is a problem that I hope...
yeah, same thing why you can't easily mock South Korea, although it's a mockable and disdainful society. It's a terrible place.
Feminism dragged to 11, right? Like,
well, it's not just feminism. Everything is wrong in South Korea. Like everything. And it's increasingly very
they're
difficult.
They're punishing Johnny Somali, though, so there's that.
I guess, yeah.
He's looking at 35 years now.
Goodness me, that's excessive. Well,
they stacked up a lot of stuff. Like, for instance, he went into a playground with text-to-speech chat. There was like a little girl in front of him, like 5 or 6 year old.
Yeah, I know. And
it's
it's legally considered indecent exposure. Yeah, I have followed some of that drama.
Yeah, so like they kept adding up, and now it's like 35 years.
Yeah, no, that's probably not going to happen. That's excessive. I get why. I get the shock value, fine, and the guy deserves it and probably deserves more beating. Sure, I agree. But come on, I mean...
I said that I lost subscribers. Like, people are like, no, life.
But like, again, they had literal cannibals who served less than that.
I know why this is happening. The reason that...
is to make an example.
To make an example, yes. And like, imagine this, you're minding your own business, and all of a sudden a brick comes through your window.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the fuck is happening? And you go out and someone steals your dog. And then you realize that there's this new trend of live streamers that are doing these things in order to get super chats, and you're the butt end of the joke.
Yeah,
And so
enough.
people are like, you know what?
Yeah, we're gonna catch the most popular of them and hang them in the public squares.
Yeah, and with Johnny Somali, like he did this shit in Japan, and he
Yes,
managed to get away with
and
it.
Thailand and
And
quite
then
a few.
Thailand, then in Israel, he
Israel,
got, I
yes.
think he got beaten by a cop.
Yeah.
And now he's doing it in South Korea, so people are like,
Okay, enough is enough.
Enough
Yeah,
is
fair enough. But still, 35 years is excessive.
I do agree with you, but like, well, you know, the law is the law for playing North Korean propaganda in the subway,
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
for creating sexual deepfakes with.
Yeah, that's especially insulting in South Korea to play North Korean propaganda. Yeah, I mean, at some point you're like, okay, if you're gonna break laws for views, but just pick and choose. Don't break all of them because some of them can be quite.
No,
serious.
he broke like I think 7 or 8 in total, and they're all stacking up.
So, or at least break them out after you're off the country. So, I'm currently on my
yeah,
channel.
upload the video after your.
Yeah, currently on my channel is videos about Cambodian politics. That will get me on a sanctions list in Cambodia for sure. But it's been a year since I've been there, so I can insult their king and remind everyone that he's a Czech-speaking dance instructor. Of course, he's a homosexual. But I wouldn't say that at his palace.
Yeah, absolutely, like.
Right. When I found out at the royal palace that he's the only living royal figure on earth that speaks Czech language, I'm like, okay, that sounds kind of gay. And they're like, yeah, and he's not married, and he's a dance instructor. I'm like, yeah, that's definitely gay. Then I look him up on the internet, and I'm like, his father was like, he loves women the way he loves his sisters. I'm like, yeah, he's a faggot. But I wouldn't say that in the royal palace. You don't say that to the royal.
Yeah, you get arrested, right?
Probably, yes. Although they don't have a tough lèse-majesté jurisprudence like in Thailand, but you can still get
you'd probably get deported, yeah, because like they wouldn't want that in the national news.
Yeah, and definitely not at the guy's palace. If you're at His Royal Highness's residence, I'm not saying kiss the guy's ass, but come on. Same thing in South Korea. I despise South Korea. I think it's a terrible society.
But you wouldn't go there and play DPRK music.
No. Well, first of all, because DPRK sucks for different reasons, but it's also a terrible place. And secondly, come on. I'll go to one of their universities and demonstrate with numbers why their society deserves to die. Okay, fine, I'll do that. But that would be within the confines of acceptable things. But playing Kim Jong-un songs, it's kind of a bit too much. Who is the best succumbus from your game and why it is Mommy Morrigan? Jokes aside, is there a future of successful parenting in groups of parents setting up no smartphone play groups for their kids? That's an interesting one.
I don't know. I think like these whole things where we create a pattern and you apply it to everyone, I don't know how effective it is. I think like when I was a kid, right? And this is what a lot of people need to do. It's like, imagine you're a kid now and you have like the adults and they're telling you don't have any smartphones. Like, what would you do? Wouldn't you like go and do everything possible in order to get the smartphone?
Not really. But then again, I had access to the latest technology after 1990 because of a family of electronic engineers. And before during communism, it was just the physical restriction of a socialist regime, and we couldn't have that. But immediately after that, we could easily get before everyone else. And I got sick and tired and bored of them really fast. The playing ball outside was significantly more attractive.
Depending on the personality, right?
But that may not be true with others. Yeah, that's true. But what I would take more from Chris's question is more like, groups of parents setting up whatever, play groups, that doesn't tend to end well unless it's done right.
Do we even have like the concept of playgroups now?
We do, but in here we're still somewhat doing it right, although I'm seeing increasingly some mistakes.
Like maybe my neighborhood could have like this type of parent groups, but like from what I've seen, it's like most people go to the mall and like the mall has the play group. But I don't think like it's like the suburban idea of the United States, where you have like everyone lives next to each other and you have like the play group and the parents get to talk and. I don't think we have that here.
Yeah, but they also got even worse than we did in the US because they've lost the newer parents, at least the urban ones. The rural ones still have the correct idea, but the urban ones lost the idea of unstructured play. That is what's badly needed. The idea that the parents establish the program and it's
that's the problem. Yeah, like
that's
cringe.
retarded. It's
the cringe. Yeah, it's like my imagine when I was a kid to have my mom and dad tell me how to play like that.
The first thing you want is to do exactly the opposite.
Exactly the opposite. And, you know, like when you were playing football and someone's mom came in, like, didn't that ruin the mood?
No, it will turn her into a target.
Really?
Yeah, you get balls in the face until you fuck off from the pitch.
Wow, that's
Yeah, but you know, it happened only once that I remember, and that was enough. Because you know, then the parents talk to each other. It's like, yeah, let's not bother the kids, because look what happened to that. So, but and you know, the fathers were like, yeah, of course that happened to you. I mean, what the hell? Why are you on the kids' pitch?
How old were you?
6, 7, something like that.
Like 7 years old, you kick the ball into another.
Of course.
Jesus.
Well, we would kick it against each other, so why not someone, you know, you are the invader. Fuck off. You know, we lacked the language and the politeness necessary to tell an adult to fuck off. But, you know...
The gesture, yeah.
Yeah, accidentally getting a ball into your face 7 or 8 times, that could probably deliver
She got the message.
She got the message, you know. The first time it was an accident, but after it happened 4 or 5 times more within less than a minute, like, okay, whatever. And, you know, you shouldn't take it... too seriously, but you know.
Can you imagine now, like how a Karen would react?
Here it would still be reacted mostly, be like, whatever.
But in America,
It will probably be a problem. Although I guess it depends on the state, because in some states they can actually take the kids. In others, you know, in Louisiana it will probably be just like in Romania. But I don't know, Texas probably not. Texas has the incredibly harsh and Karenist child protection legislation.
Florida.
Florida as well, but Florida doesn't have kids. It has a lot of boomers. There's that. I mean, you know, their population growth is entirely boomers fleeing Democrat policies so they can spend their shekelim in very retirement. So there's that. In any event, if you could... No, let's get back to your game. Misha, how is your separating the Gunnar game project and your personal life? Do you have does the topic of your game come often into discussion in your household or at all?
Well, it's a business. Like it's just
right. So the details are just
it's a business. It's like what I do in order to have a backup in case my YouTube channel doesn't work. And other than that, no, doesn't really come out.
Fair enough. Yeah, I don't talk with my woman details. About my activities.
No, I usually lock myself in my studies so that you know, my son doesn't accidentally walk in, or that my wife doesn't come in. I do the necessary work, and then I open the door again, and they're actually used to that, because when I record YouTube videos,
same thing. Yeah.
I don't want someone coming in into the camera.
Fair enough. When are you coming to Bucharest? It's not my question.
I'm actually going to come. I think on the 4th.
Of July?
Yeah.
Right, so soon.
Yeah, but I'm only staying one day because
I better let him know, because I don't think I'm publishing this before July 4th.
I have to attend the baptism.
Right.
So
family obligations.
Family obligations.
Fair enough.
Which is really great, because you came in and now I have some content to upload.
Fair enough. How can people and/or companies form an effective backlash against credit card companies that promote Californian, I guess, censorship?
Yeah, so
what's this about?
Yeah, like a couple of credit card companies decided to hit some Japanese websites.
Right, over morality
issues.
Right,
but the problem is credit card companies have also tried to hit gun stores. And
I'm sure that worked out just fine, not?
Yeah. But the issue is that should credit card companies, with politicians usually, who realize that they can't pass legislation, appeal to credit card companies to start moralizing society. And how can you fight that? I don't know. I think like what a lot of people don't know is that if you actually buy with cash, you actually hurt the credit card companies.
Yes.
Because stores aren't allowed to tell you, it's in the terms of service, but every single time you pay with credit card, the store actually loses money.
Yes. It depends on the margin, but yes, they do have to pay an extra fee.
So if you, like if people knew and they went out of their way to use cash more often, but the problem is like people don't want to because it's the commodity of buying online.
It's convenience,
So No, I don't know the answer to this, to be honest.
With the Japanese stuff, I'm sure there is a Japanese equivalent of Revolut that would gladly take
Well, with
your
Japanese stuff, like I know the Japanese government is fighting against it. They
Right,
find
fair
it abhorrent. Like they don't understand the idea. It's like, okay, why are we
Well,
policing our society?
the Japanese prime minister could just tell Trump at the next G7 meeting, "Hey, by the way, your Californians are at it again, and they're harming my revenue here for no reason." And Trump would be like, "Oh, I get to shit on Gavin Newsom again." And get some more young men voting for me, but no, I mean, it's just a win-win for both politicians,
Sure,
right?
but like the idea of credit card companies using morality, I think that from what I heard from a guy that works at Wall Street, a lot of banks are fed up with the credit card companies too. So maybe in the future, like they may even get rid of them with the what you said, Revolut systems or
Other forms of payment,
other
yeah.
forms of payment.
Which
yeah.
still use. So, by the way, Americans need a reform on that as well. Most people in the U.S. can't be straight up connected to the SWIFT system, all right? Whereas everyone else in the world is by default connected to them if they get an account anywhere.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so if I want to send a shekel to a friend in Iceland or in
Yeah,
Zimbabwe,
you just use the Swift, yeah.
yeah, and I just do that regardless of okay, fine. The exact procedure depends whether I use Revolut or my
And with an American account?
not directly, no, and it's a lot of hassle. Or you use Western Union, which costs a lot, or whatever. You don't have direct access to SWIFT. Most people don't.
Well, for instance, like another thing that credit card companies do is that they pressured a lot of social media companies to restrict free speech. Like, for instance, they would say hate speech, right?
Yeah,
Like,
Stripe did that quite a bit.
Stripe did that quite a bit, yeah. And it affected then Patreon and other websites. And it doesn't seem like it's coming from the credit card.
Yes.
Like you don't know, like from your opinion, it's like, oh, Patreon just decided to ban this guy.
Now, to be fair, Patreon did suck before
Yes,
Stripe.
no, like obviously, but
But it's just Patreon. Everyone else was because of Stripe, yes.
yes.
Yeah, but Patreon decided to be commies before.
No, but like my point is, like the nudge was there.
Yeah, fair enough. But is there other than cash? But I suppose that is the answer. Alternative
Yeah,
services.
use cash.
Yeah, but when it comes to online transactions, just use alternative services.
Kind of everything uses a credit card, more or less. Like Revolut is what we can use, but like if you use PayPal, it also uses a credit card. I guess you can use like Bitcoin and stuff, right?
No, PayPal actually, if you can withdraw in a virtual card, you can withdraw it. I think it allows on some of these virtual European cards, which
Though
are.
PayPal is the same problem, right?
Yeah, but PayPal has been censorious for quite a bit, yeah. And random cancellations of accounts.
And they also hold the money.
Yeah. It's very difficult to get them to release the amounts. They eventually do, but it takes forever. Yeah, that's quite a problem. If you could introduce or eliminate a single provision in the Romanian constitution, what would that be?
Oh, the Second Amendment would be nice. Or the First Amendment, but properly.
Right, Article 30, but written better.
Yeah.
Right, fair
Like
enough.
exactly how it's in the United States.
Well, to be fair, actually, the Romanian one is better, but it's not applied correctly. Because censorship of any kind is forbidden.
But
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, no. Just delete everything
Yeah.
after that.
yeah.
Yeah, fair
I think the
enough.
European Union would freak out.
Not really. I mean, there is a version like that in Czechia, and they don't care. In fact, in Czechia, they translated the Second Amendment and put it in the constitution. That's why Czechia is officially the biggest supplier of weaponry to Ukraine. Because what we all do is put a Czech flag on it and launder it through a Czech company.
Do you think it would be good for our society if we just got the Constitution to be the Bill of Rights?
Initially, no. Over a long run, yes. Although, to be fair, with the exception of the Second Amendment, we kind of already have some versions of that
yeah.
already. Like the Fifth Amendment is actually stronger here than in the US. There are no exceptions here. You can avoid self-incrimination at every single point with no exception.
Didn't they used to get you as a witness and then they would change the...
Yeah, that's the thing. Here, you can refuse any question regardless of your quality in the investigation.
I think if you're investigated by an afura,
Even that, no, you can avoid.
you can avoid answering.
Yeah, and if they don't like it, they can call in the criminal court, where definitely I can avoid answering. And but then again, it depends on your situation. It may not be a good idea to shut up. But if you want to, yeah, sure.
I thought that as a witness you have to talk.
No,
Really?
no,
I'll have to look
no.
at
I
it.
have to show up.
You have to show up.
Yeah, if it's a criminal investigation, I have to show up eventually. Because at the first call, I can just say, whatever. But eventually, the prosecutor will, which is a bringing warrant, because it's exactly the same in the U.S. as well. They'll bring you by force, but I don't have to talk.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I just have to show up. Okay, fine. I show up. I have to answer only one question. Are you this guy? They'll write your name. Yeah. Okay. Have you? The cat ate my tongue, and that's it. You can't force people to.
So we have like a stronger Fifth Amendment.
Yeah, because what you gonna do? Charge me with obstruction of justice? Why aren't you talking?
Yeah, I get it.
And of course, if you take it to absurd levels, eventually the Constitutional Court be like, yeah, but why are you insisting that much? So maybe you guys are actually doing something wrong, right? So there's that. But with Second Amendment, we lost the tradition of weaponry among our civilians.
With the communists, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I said this too often in English. If I pull out a lethal weapon now and put it on the table,
I would freak out, yeah.
Yeah,
It's like it's got an aura of dread.
yeah. Whereas I'm accustomed to using lethal weapons and using weapons in firearms, but I know I'm also a minuscule exception. Most people are.
I remember like people were outraged when Mircea Badea showed this gun.
Yeah. He showed it on live TV, on prime time, right. And that one, I mean, the weapon was real, but the ammunition was not lethal. He wasn't even having a lethal ammunition.
I don't think we have the legal. I think we have like the most strict gun control legislation probably in the world.
It used to be the case, not anymore. Some of the friends of the sofa have been working tirelessly over the last 10 years, and now the exempted categories that can use lethal ammunition is like 4 times bigger than 10 years ago. We're slowly just adding more people.
Rangers, forest,
Yeah.
truck drivers.
Truck drivers, yeah. The truck drivers will use the immigrant crisis to advocate for that, and it just passed smoothly through the parliament. Yes, without debate. Why not?
I think I heard on the radio like people wondering. It's like who are the activist groups?
Yeah. Because the previous president of the Chamber of Deputies said that this came from the activist branch, via the activists, and he endorsed it because he's like, yeah, considering what's been happening lately in France with truck drivers, with the immigrants, especially at the crossing to England, yeah, probably some of that will happen here because of the immigrants coming from Bulgaria, and they can't swim across, but they'll try to catch a truck
drivers
going into Romania and maybe try hide from there. And some of the drivers see them. Maybe they should be able to defend themselves against that. But then again, in this country, shooting an illegal migrant is not even news.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it happened a lot of times, and you can find out by just filing a FOIA request to the Border Patrol. And eventually they'll tell you. But other than that, doesn't make it to the news. It's not like it's secret, but the newspaper guys know it as well, that we can't go with pro-immigration shilling in that direction and saying, oh, poor illegal got shot trying to illegally.
Yeah, like people in Romania are more like, well, if he did the crime. Because I remember like watching this video on Twitter. Some guy robbed the Uber driver, and then he jumped off this huge highway, broke his legs, and people were like, "Oh my God, why is no one helping him? Oh my God, is he fine?" And I was like, I get it, but like, why is no one asking if the Uber driver is fine?
It's fine, yeah.
He just got robbed at gunpoint, and then this guy and it's like, if you have more compassion for the criminal than you have for the victim, then you deserve like society to be victimized.
Pretty much, yes. And it's a lot of these suicidal empathy thingy. And Americans are surprised because I suppose this is one thing that they're actually behind Europe, because it first started here. This whole suicidal empathy thingy. It was present in the US as well, but not to the level that it is now. If this immigration crisis had been taking place under Obama, and Obama would start, oh wait, that actually did happen. And Obama deported more people than Trump.
And it happened in Australia, and they opened fire on
They opened fire, yes. Yeah, they just sunk the boats. Who knew? You sunk 3 boats and no more boats show up. Right?
Didn't Poland authorize it?
Poland did. Italy under Salvini, when Salvini was the Minister of Interior,
Isn't he investigated for that?
he got acquitted. He won the lawsuit.
the lawsuit.
Yeah, yeah. So now Giorgia Meloni can basically use him as a threat. Depose me, and you get this guy prime minister. Because she only does targeted authorizations to sinking the boats, whereas Salvini was like, no, shoot them all indiscriminately. If it's not ours, then it's enemy. And after they fired a few of them, several months, then
Do they give time for the boats to turn around?
Yes, yes.
Because they still don't turn around.
No, and after they don't turn
Do
around.
they have fuel to turn around?
Most do, yeah.
So why don't they turn around?
Because they expect that the European Coast Guard won't open fire. And they're right most of the time. They don't. Sometimes there were incidents. Now they rarely make the news. At some point, the EU insisted that, oh look, Romania and Greece haven't been contributing to the foreign text effort enough. So maybe it's time for you guys to contribute. And the Romanians were like, okay, fine. We'll even use our own boats to patrol the Mediterranean for that. And after a month of us doing that, the EU was like, okay, that's a problem. Why? Too many dead bodies. Because these guys were
like the Romanians are like, well, you want us to secure the border? We're securing the border.
Yes, and when they ran out of ammo, they just went with their biggest boat through the migrants' boat, and they kept on stopping them, and they're like, okay, that's too many dead bodies. And I'm like, well, they weren't stopping. And the regulation says you have to provide warning and provide enough space.
They probably did, yeah.
They did. No, they did. Because they observed the regulation. They had footage to prove it. No, look, we did observe the regulation, but it does say that if none of this is happening, we get to stop it by any means necessary. And we ran out of ammo, so we just went with our boat through there, and of course, got sunk. And yeah, but then you didn't try to save anyone from swimming. It doesn't say we have to do that. Yeah, but it's the compassionate thing to do. That's not in the law. The procedure doesn't say that, therefore.
Yeah, I don't think they understand the Romanian mindset at all.
Yeah. If it's not explicitly mandated, then
No, it's not even that. It's like compassion for criminals.
yeah, especially
Like if you're,
especially foreigners.
but not only that, like the idea here, like what most people think, it's like, okay, you have a guy that sees a ship that is being told to stop, he doesn't stop. Sees the ship firing, he doesn't stop. And it's like, okay, how do you integrate such a person in society? Like, if he doesn't respect the law whatsoever, even when his own life is at stake,
Yeah.
like how is he expected to be a good neighbor?
Yeah.
And that's how people think here.
Yeah, of course. That's why we're a bunch of fucking bigots, right?
Yeah.
And it's one of the many reasons why I'm slowly warming up to the idea of supporting the Pakistanis against the Brits, because Pakistan is a far more honorable place than the United Kingdom. And also, as Romanians, we've been enduring a lot of shit from the Brits between 2007 and 2016. I'm like, oh, now you have a problem with mass immigration? Oh, they're doing crime? Great. Oh, they're doing 100,000 times worse than you exaggerated about us 9 years ago? Great. This is justice being served.
I don't know. Like, I don't want to have the karma and then something like that happen to us. Like maybe we will treat some other people with the same way that the Brits treated us, and then we will get what we deserve.
Well, we've been treating the Turks far worse than that, and now we're good friends. Eventually, after several hundreds of years...
Well, even now, British people that I know are good friends with Romanians, because apparently, like, the Romanians are standing up when...
I hope they stop standing up for marginal brown islands at the edge of Europe and start coming up back home and standing up for us. Britain is, the British people, I just can't have any, not just empathy, no, straight up disdain. Because,
Between British people and Germans.
do I have to choose positively or negatively?
Positive.
Positively, Germans.
Really?
Yes, because the Germans haven't been insulting us in more than 100 years. More than 150 years, actually.
Yeah, but look...
The Brits insulted me personally, right? It's just 9 years ago.
Look, the conflict with Ukraine, the Brits are willing to send...
That's Ukraine's problem. I'm not Ukrainian.
No, but we're on the border. So.
Yes, but I'm Romanian, not Ukrainian.
Yeah, but if Russia would come here, wouldn't the Brits send...
Dacă și cu parcă se futeau într-o barcă, right? Good luck translating that into English. Right? No, again, I'm Romanian. The average Brit bought the Daily Fail by the 10 million copies, 15 million copies a day when they would defame us as people in our totality, right? So it's the regular Brits, it's not the elites, right? The elites make the decision about Ukraine. Okay, I can be friends with some of the members of the British elite. I actually am. I know a few MPs and former MPs and politicians and whatnot. Good people, sure. But that's the elites. Regular people, they've treated my people intentionally poorly for no reason. So I'm like, oh, now you're being treated poorly for no reason. Great. I'm not going to help the Pakistanis commit crimes, obviously, but you want sympathy? There's still this.
Sorry. Do you think they'll eventually solve the conflict?
No.
No?
The British conflict, you mean? No. Who?
It's too integrated?
Who would solve it? Seriously, think about it.
I don't know, maybe some charismatic person can rise up.
Sure, but with what means? Again, who wants to defend a country that systematically hates its own people? Who wants to defend it?
Maybe the new generation will stop putting up with
The smallest in British history, right? Because, total fertility rate is a bitch.
So you don't see any positive...
No.
What about like economic stability at some point?
What economic stability? Again, it's a marginal brown island at the edge of Europe. What economic stability?
Yeah, but it's an island. Like it still has access to ocean. It still has access to political allies.
For now, think about it this way: Trump is 79, Modi is 74, Xi Jinping is 75, Putin is 72. Or 75 actually, but few people know that.
Keir Starmer is pretty young.
Keir Stalin won't be around very soon. If you look at the age of the House of Commons, it's 80 dead, routinely. It's an asylum.
Let me put it this differently: if you were in charge of Britain, would you be able to fix the issue?
No, I would resign before even trying.
You would resign
before even trying? Yes, because why?
No, but like hypothetically, like would you be able to have like the policies that would?
I don't know. Depends if I have the parliamentary majority. And depends on if I have to observe the current legislation or I get to make my own law. If you put me a dictator, yeah.
You fix it immediately, right?
Well, not immediately. It would take me 6 months. Roman Empire style. You put me a dictator on a very limited term. But I wouldn't do it. I would refuse it because, why would I save a country whose people voluntarily chose to insult me for no reason? No. We should get back to our own roots.
You're more like Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, more like the Ottomans, because again, we fought the Ottomans for 600 years, so they learned some things from us, we learned some things from them. And this honor thingy should probably be brought back. In fact, it never left, but it should be applied more honestly. Because again, that's most of the world. And this Westoid idea that, we should be better than that. Yeah, how's that working out? It's not working out anymore. Because, these places, in Britain in particular, have been drawing the long end of the stick of geopolitics for so long that now they can't imagine that, this time around you actually drew the short end of the stick of the geopolitics. Because, you're not on any important trade route. Your ports are increasingly shit. Your waters are no longer deliver that much fish as they used to.
Do you know that they wanna? They tried passing a legislation where they would force Apple.
Oh yeah, and your politics suck.
Yeah, like they would force Apple to share everything in the cloud, not
with GCHQ.
Yeah,
right?
like not by having a court order, but by allowing the government, the British government, to have a back door.
The GCHQ,
into the cloud. So like they would be able to see your phone from Romania.
Yeah.
And apparently they did it like they have a way of doing it without making it public. So it didn't actually go through a public court. It went like through under the table dealings.
Their version of FISA court, but even more secretive, yes. Yes, I'm aware. It's one of the many reasons why, again, I support the great reset of Britain. So it's not just the politics, no, everyone. Because that place is an active enemy. And again, before 2022, every single year, Britain had more people arrested for social media posts than Russia.
Well, I mean, if you compare with Germany, I think...
No.
More
Worse,
than Germany?
worse, yeah. Because in Germany they go after very specific targets, and again nowadays they can't anymore because they lost.
They
in
lost the
court.
lawsuit, yeah.
Yeah, but again, even in Germany, the state can sometimes lose in court on free speech grounds. Right? The final ruling of the court is like the rule of law applies to even to the enemies of the rule of law, and freedom of expression applies including to the enemies of the rule of law. It is explicitly permitted to disagree with the government policy, no matter how distasteful it may be, right? Something like that is just in Britain. And again, it's a society that needs to be told by a court what is a woman.
No, they figured it out.
Yes, but again, they need the
Oh, yeah, they
courts
did
to
the
tell
court,
you,
yeah,
right? I can't imagine something like that in Poland or in Romania or in Hungary.
I could imagine it in the US, though.
No, not even in the US.
Not even in the
No,
US.
because there's only one Ketanji Brown Jackson. All right, the other 8 just Scottish judges know what is a woman. and even Ketanji Brown Johnson knows as well, but she was playing a role
For the cameras, yeah.
for the cameras and for her own constituency. I mean, she is the DEI hire, the DEI hire.
I mean, literally, they said
literally,
that, yeah,
yes.
that
I mean,
we need a black woman judge. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, Biden promised to deliver a DEI hire, and he delivered. It's probably the only promise in his campaign that he actually
That he
delivered.
delivered, yeah.
What's the? I'm doing a Konstantin Kisin here. Speaking of which I clock him as Russian Jew, not as British. I know he identifies as British, but then again, some men identify as women. They're of course wrong. Konstantin Kisin is a Russian Jew, obviously. What is the most important thing that we should be talking about, and we're not?
The economy.
Really?
Yes.
The economy is doing great. The line goes up.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, the television tells me that it's on fire.
Maybe shut down the TV.
No, but honestly, I really hate this type of politics where it's about personality, it's about social issues. When taxes go up and people vote against their interest. Especially...
Does that mean that they deserve it? I mean,
not just the economy, but like also geopolitical and strategical issues. Like how many people know what you told me, how many nuclear reactors are shutting down, how many we have, what are our resources. Like most people think that the forests are gone,
when in fact there are more than ever.
But in fact there are more than ever, or that we used to have more grain during Ceausescu. We were
Which
the
is a
breadbasket.
lie, yeah.
So like I think people should talk a lot more about economics. I did notice something interesting. The stock market. You made a bad prediction.
Really?
You said that, like people don't care about the stock market.
They
Turns
don't.
out they did.
No, they don't.
They did. They freaked out.
They freaked out for a half a minute, and then everyone forgot about it. The number of investors didn't grow or decrease.
I noticed in the polling, like it actually influenced the polling.
Yeah, but according to one poll, which didn't even have the time to measure the effect, because again, the effect on the stock market was also one day, right? So it was a panic porn op by the press. Oh my goodness, the line went down on the stock market.
Wouldn't it be good though if people knew about the stock market in our country?
Well, it would matter if we had a real stock market, but we don't. I mean, BVB is still.
We don't. Isn't it like a self-fulfilling prophecy?
It
like
is.
we don't because people don't believe in it, and so
It
don't
is.
use it. Yeah.
Yes, but it's also the problem that this economy doesn't fund itself, doesn't finance itself through the stock market. It just doesn't.
No, but like if people would, then maybe the economy would actually start funding itself.
Well, but it's still on the entrepreneurs. How many entrepreneurs are willing to list their companies on the stock market? Because first you have to have the offer to have the demand for it.
Yeah, it is what it is. I think that if people knew about it and had more of an American mindset, I think like that would.
Yeah, we're definitely in disagreement here.
You don't.
I'm a big fan of the Romanian mindset, which is far healthier. Yes, the line goes up slower.
Yes.
But I regard that as a good thing. Because look what happens when the line goes up really fast. You get US boomers who refuse to leave an inheritance to their children. They spend every last penny before they die off, and they leave nothing to their kids, or they leave their kids an inheritance at age 60. Who the fuck cares at that time? No, help them when they're 20, right? And it bred a very selfish generation, the boomers in particular. That's what happens when the line goes up too fast. We see some of that already. The line went up a bit too fast, and now our generation, really, the people in the 40s, effectively, are the most selfish and retarded generation, right? We seen it during COVID. Who was the most panicked group?
The
Older millennials.
Tineri from us.
Yes, older millennials. It was mostly us. I have met the enemy, and it's us, right? So no, if anything, if we could slower the line going up even further, that would be great. The American mindset was great for the 1950s, but we're closer to 2050 than to 1950s. By the way, if you want to feel old, I'll just remind you that 1970 is just as close to present day as it is to 1915. 55 years difference. So why should we get 1950 or 1970 US mentality here? That's already prehistory.
Yeah. No, I see your point.
Fair enough. So you should talk more about the economy. Should the plebs have ideas about energy policy? Because last time that happened, that was terrible, I think.
Was it?
Well, price controls were popular. You told me, and you were right. Yeah. So maybe the plebs...
Yeah, but like maybe they should understand what price control do.
Even 50 years of communism hasn't exactly taught people saw the effects of lack of price controls, but they haven't made the correct correlation. And I'm not sure we're able to. And not because we as Romanians are stupid. It's like people are stupid. Because we see the same thing for... Again, in New York, they're getting ready to vote for someone who promises not just price controls, but just state-run stores of food, like Alimentar, 1980s Ceausescu style stuff.
Yeah, sure, but like by this logic, like we shouldn't talk about anything because then the plebs know, and too much knowledge for the plebs is a bad thing.
No, I'm not saying keeping it secret. I'm just pondering whether it's a good thing that...
Like, do you like the current situation where people talk more about cult of personalities and morality and like what this guy did and what this guy said?
To be fair, we kind of need... Americans have too much moralizing. We have too little of it.
Really?
Yeah. So some balance is necessary. And because of the excessive economic whining from the worst people, which is, again, the millennials who voted for this current president and this current government, I'm like, yeah, your line isn't going up. Good. How about the rest of us? We're not part of that
I don't
club.
think like a different government would have made the line go up.
No, but they probably wouldn't have made the thing go down as fast. Because, the initial promise was... if you vote for the far right, then the EU funding will be suspended, and the line will go down at the stock market, and the exchange rate will go crazy. Well, okay, fine, we didn't vote for the far right. All of that happened anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what if we had voted for the far right? Are we sure the same thing would have? Maybe yes, in full honesty. But what if not? What if that crazy guy would have been able to do an alliance with the more
radical elements
of the Social Democrats, yes. And who knows? Yeah, probably they would have done socialism anyway. All right. Thank you for your time. Thank you for allowing me on this, again, very comfortable sofa, I have to admit. And yeah, he's been waiting patiently for at least 10 minutes to wrap it up because he's more hungry than I am. Which
I haven't. We're going to enjoy the nightlife.
The nightlife. Well, to be fair, it's midsummer, so the nightlife starts 5 hours from now. So, I mean, seriously, yesterday the sun went down at like almost 11 p.m. and I woke up at 3:30 a.m. and by 4 a.m.
You had no sleep.
No, I only slept like 5 hours, but very profoundly. And then I couldn't get back to sleep because it was already too hot. So I got out and it's like, okay, it's still night, so it's still a decent temperature, only 21 degrees Celsius. 10 minutes later, the sun starts rising. And I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, it's midsummer. Alrighty, thanks a lot for watching. See you all soon. Cheers.